Welcome back to the channel. Two catchphrases that carries a lot of promises for the Indian economy. They were actually a minimum government and the maximum governance. And the government has no business being in business. These two phrases are the catchphrases in the current government perspective. We can say that this was a music to the someone's years that can sustain for too long, and the Indian state has been occupying the commanding height of the economy. Using these phrases, follow these tactics, there would not been a commanding, such as hotel and the airlines. Most of these are inefficient and a drain on the, sadly said, the opposition is first term that paid those slogans. The much needed reform that this all the government has taken, that GST and insolvency and bankruptcy court, it was heartening to hear the Prime Minister declare on the February 24, 2024 that the event organized by the Department of Investment and Public Asset Management, when the government monetizes a particular asset, it is replaced by the private sector of the country. It's a trend that this investment process has been done by the government, and it can be catch and taken those opportunity to enlarge the empire by the private entity, cementing the whole places in the country's economy, driven the country's economy by those private entities. The private sector of the company of the country actually being in investment as well as for the global practices that brings in top quality manpower, and the transformation of this management. The mutual fund stock market industry also rapidly expand, and that sector has creates a future boom of this economy. And the government is also sources emphasize on this sector. The stock market is a new concept, a new era of opportunities for the government to boost the economy, to scale up the economy, rapidly expand that the sector, and it creates a huge boost for the economy. The Prime Minister focused on the public-private partnerships, and this year's union budget that mentioned that this investment, the ruling establishment freely uses the word monetization and disinvestment today, which would have been the anathema earlier. The ideology aside, there is a good reason for the government push in these directions. The economy continues to remain in the ICU for the second successive years. It's contracted by 7.3% in the previous financial year, the first full year contraction since 1980. A long 40 years when the GDP shrank by 5.2%. Then, in this April, a deadly second wave of the pandemic stamped out the faint glimmer of hope when the economy grew at 1.6% in the fourth quarter. The economy expanded at its fastest ever in the first quarter of 2022, 20.15%. But this was because of the low base the earlier year are pointed out. The financial crisis has seen the government resort to extraordinary measures like asset monetization, a part of which it will lease out its asset to the private sector to raise the resources. On August 23rd, the Union Minister announced the National Monetization Pipeline (NMP), for which the government has identified 13 sectors across 12 ministries and the department and comprised in 20 asset classes. The private sector also can collect those tolls on roads, operate those trains on government built tracks, run those railway stations, collect the revenue from the power generation and transmission line, manage the warehouses, telecom towers, and operate the airport. The government plan to raise rupees 6 lakh crore from leasing out this infrastructure over the next 4 years. The big earners, it hopes that it will roads 1.6 lakh crore, railways for 1.52 lakh crores, and the power transmission for 45,000 crores, and the power generation 40,000 crores rupees. And the government will also use some of this revenue for the ambitious schemes such as 111 lakh crore National Infrastructure Pipeline to upgrade the infrastructure and build the multimodal connectivity in the next 5 years. It also needs to fund the radical social schemes like 3.6 lakh crore Jal Jeevan Mission to provide the pipe water supply to every village home by 2024. The asset monetization is a laudable idea, it's appreciable, but we have to see that in the past it's not a slogan, an idea that was short supply. The failure is in the implementation. The government's record on delivering on its slogan has been a mixed bag so far. In 2021 financial year, the government garnered just one-tenth of its planned disinvestment target of 2.1 lakh crore. This is the time of the buoyant stock market. And PSU like Air India with accumulated losses of 70,000 crore as of March 31st, 2020 remained unsold, and other unrealized PSU sales such as those of Bharat Petroleum Corporation Limited, Container Corporation of India, two public sector banks, and one general insurance company also testify to the yawning gap between the intent and the implementation. That delay can be costly too, since the government approved the privatization of Air India in 2017 actually. The losses have increased by 27,500 crore. The government should be clear about its motive for this drive. Needed to be successful, implementation can be done with proper planning that give the government a proper result, the desired result. And this been done because of the sort of fund actually. And they do genuinely believe in this country's best interest. The answer will determine how hard they are willing to push an inert bureaucracy. Those primary instinct is to preserve the status quo, more so in this case because they stand to lose the power over a large segment in their domain. And the devil and the process is lies on the fine print. They can make the condition for monetizations show the stringent that is not attractive to anyone. In addition to raising those revenue, there has to be a fundamental belief on the government part that the resources being privatized will be used more efficiently and the nation will gain. And there will of course the controversies over how the assets are valued. And the opposition will also accuse the government of selling those family silver and creating the gems on improvement of the government. Will have to weather all those opposition and convincingly communicate the narrative. The big privatization push examine the government asset monetization policy and how it will work. The Prime Minister too also should not worry what color his critics will call his cat, but instead he must proceed with determinations on these much needed reforms and release the Indian economy from the last vestiges of our disastrous socialist field and era that the great architect will desire to be India's dream of in the next few years can be fulfilled with the help of big privatization push that the government will raise a 6 lakh crore over the next 4 years with the monetization of public sector asset. How it will work, how it will implement properly, and when we will see those long-term results, that's the most important thing we would want to wait and see. That's the policy, wait and see. That's all for now. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.